The Last Call, a story inspired by the book of Zephaniah, ****. The streets of Jerusalem bustled with life, yet a darkness hung over the city like a storm cloud. Merchants called out from their stalls, children played in the alleyways, and priests carried out their rituals in the temple. But beneath the surface, corruption festered. The people had turned their hearts away from the Lord, worshiping false gods, exploiting the poor, ignoring the covenant that once bound them to their Creator. Idols stood in homes and marketplaces, and justice had become a thing of the past. Among them stood Zephaniah, a man set apart. He had seen the visions, had heard the voice of the Lord, and his heart burned with the message he was called to deliver. The word of the Lord had come to him with urgency, a warning of judgment, but also a promise of redemption. One morning, Zephaniah stood in the city square, his voice rising above the hum of daily life. "Listen, people of Judah. The great day of the Lord is near. A day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of ruin and desolation." His words cut through the air like a sword. Some turned to listen, their faces stricken with fear, while others scoffed and continued on their way. The Lord has seen your idolatry. He has seen the pride of the leaders, the greed of the merchants, and the deceit of the priests. He will sweep away everything from the land. The mighty will fall, the wealthy will weep, and those who turn their backs on the Lord will be no more. The message spread quickly. The rulers in the palace heard of it and laughed. "Who is this Zephaniah to speak against us?" they mocked. "We are strong, our city is great, and our gods are many." Zephaniah knew their false security would not last. Days passed, then weeks, and still the people did not turn from their ways. The Lord spoke again to Zephaniah. "Go and tell them, seek the Lord, all you humble of the land. Seek righteousness, seek humility. Perhaps you may be hidden on the day of the Lord's anger." So he went again, this time to the remnant, those who still feared the Lord. He urged them to hold fast to their faith, to turn away from the sins of the city. Some listened. They wept and repented. They tore down their idols and sought the Lord with renewed hearts. But many still refused, and then the storm came. The mighty Babylonian army descended upon Jerusalem like an unstoppable tide. The city's defenses crumbled, the palaces were burned. The temple, once the dwelling place of God's presence, was reduced to ruins. Those who had trusted in their wealth found themselves destitute, and those who had mocked the warnings were left with nothing but regret. Yet, in the midst of destruction, Zephaniah's prophecy did not end in despair. For after the storm, there was hope. The Lord spoke once more, "I will leave in your midst a humble and lowly people, and they shall take refuge in my name." He promised restoration, a time when the faithful would rejoice, when Jerusalem would be renewed and the Lord himself would dwell among his people again. Years passed, and the exiled people of Judah slowly returned. They rebuilt their homes, their faith, and their city. And though Zephaniah was no longer there to see it, his words lived on, a reminder that while judgment comes for the wicked, mercy is always waiting for those who turn back to God. The day of the Lord had come and would come again. So too would his promise of redemption.